Hello, and welcome to another edition of Thursday Thoughts with Pastor Pat. I am Pastor Pat, the pastor of St. John's United Church of Christ in Weldon Springs, Missouri. This is my little weekly video blog on what I'm thinking on Thursday as we're approaching Sunday morning worship. This coming Sunday is February 23rd. It is the seventh Sunday after Epiphany. We're getting really close to Lent now, and the scripture is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verses 27 to 38. Last week, we read about the Sermon on the Plain from Luke. This continues the Sermon on the Plain from Luke, and this is a fun one. This is where Jesus tells everybody listening to the sermon, love your enemies. Love your enemies. So I am really looking forward to this sermon on Sunday. It's a topic I've preached on before, but it's always a tough one because it's a tough thing to do, to love our enemies. Sometimes it's tough to love the people we love, let alone love people who are our enemies. So it's got me thinking a few different things. Like, one, who are my enemies? Now, oftentimes I've heard a lot of people say, well, I don't really have any enemies. Okay, that might be true. But I have found you dig a little deeper, and there's people that, if not an enemy, they really struggle to even just tolerate, so to speak. We create so many enemies nowadays. We see enemies within politics. We see enemies within even sports. We see enemies. How safe do you think it would be for a Cub fan to live in this area? I know some, and they feel very outnumbered. We see nations as enemies, and it changes a lot. Some right now see Russia as very much an enemy. Some people see Canada right now as very much an enemy. So there are enemies out there. Some people see enemies in big government, big business, big pharma, big media, big unions. We see enemies left and right, and oftentimes we view them all with a lot of disdain and anger in our hearts. Now the word, there's many words that get translated into enemy, but the primary one in the Old Testament, where the word enemies gets used a lot, is oyeb, which literally means one who hates. So when you're asking that question, who is my enemy? It is one who hates. So an enemy to me kind of get boiled down to is anyone who doesn't like you, or anyone who doesn't treat you well, is in the biblical sense of the word an enemy. So essentially, enemies aren't something we can control. So even though we may not think we have an enemy, we don't see anybody as an enemy, there's probably someone who doesn't like you. I know there's people who don't like me, and I've learned to be okay with that over the time, but it's basically anyone who doesn't treat you well or doesn't like you. So what I also want to say quickly, and I'm giving you a lot of glimpses into Sunday sermon. I'm trying not to spoil the whole sermon, but loving your enemies is very important as well. Loving your enemy does not mean you have to become friends with them. Loving your enemy doesn't mean that how they treat you is okay, or you're not allowed to confront them on their behavior or their words or how they treat you. Loving your enemy doesn't mean you have to trust them either. So loving your enemy is very difficult. It's really wrapped up in topics like forgiveness. And I should use that to plug this book, Forgiveness, which is going to be our Lenten study guide this year. It's coming up really quick. The second Wednesday in March, the Wednesday after Ash Wednesday, which I believe is March 5th. So the Wednesday after that would be March 12th. We're going to begin a study during Lent every Wednesday night, looking at this book called Forgiveness and exercising and looking at a topic that is very difficult for all of us to do. I'll post the link to purchase that book in the comments below. But comment below, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard do you find it to love your enemies? Some of you, maybe you find it easy and you'd say like, 2 or 3, it's pretty easy. Others might say 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 11, 12. Loving my enemies is difficult. And just because you say it's difficult doesn't mean you don't understand that God is calling you and Jesus calls us to love our enemies. I would say at least an 8 for me. It's a challenge. I have to work at it. It doesn't just come naturally. I have to work at loving those people that I know don't like me very much, or just downright hate me or have treated me badly over the years. Loving them is not easy. So comment below. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe, or excuse me, that's YouTube. Like and comment and share on Facebook. And I hope to see you at worship on a Sunday morning, 10 a.m. in person, or you can always join us by Facebook right here at 10 a.m. as well. Take care and God bless. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.